My name is Raphael Hyde, and I'm one of the Google Web3 leads. And welcome back to Web3 Talks. Today we have Daniel, who is the Chief Creative Officer at Playchain. So I'm super excited to talk about gaming, game development, and his career and his path to Playchain, which has been pretty impressive. A few things about Daniel's career is before working at Playchain, he started as a senior digital designer. So I think it's cool that he's went from doing design work, 3D art, and then also creative leadership now at Playchain. So thanks a lot, Daniel, for joining us today.
Thank you. Great to be here. Looking forward to talking about some Web3, the future of Playchain, and so on. It'll be great.
Awesome. And can you tell everybody where you're calling in from?
I am currently in Denmark. Might as well have been like Mallorca or Singapore or some of the other offices, but currently in Denmark. Yes, this is where I'm living.
Awesome.
But we're all working remote right these days, so
we really appreciate you staying up so late to chat with us. What time is it there right now?
It's only 10, so it's not too bad.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. We're gonna talk about you a little bit, and then we'll jump back to the slides, and we can show some of the cool things that you had prepared. So tell us, we're always curious to know the origin story. Where did you start in your career?
So I've always played games, which is usually how we get into this industry, right? But I started at 3D College Denmark. I was there for 2 years, dropped out before I finished due to job offers, which is basically the goal of it, right? So I figured that would be a better path. I got into Kilo, which slightly different from the setup you had there, but I was actually there as an intern, 3D intern. That's what I started as. Did some UI and some game design, tech artist things, and so on for many years. My first game was that Frisbee game that was on the slide, which had like 5 million downloads, and it was such a huge thing back when we did it, right? Later on, a few years later, we did Subway Surfers, which has now hit about 4 billion downloads, most downloaded game in the world. So that's also something.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. But my path into all of this was basically networking. Like a lot of this industry is networking. It's very rare that you send an application and actually get in that way, I find. Also, like that's how we are. We're biased, right? We like friends, so we stick them in our circles. So I have evolved from 3D to tech artist, which is more of like a programming thing. Then I went more into game design, and from there I combined it all into a position for creative director, which is basically managing all of these departments, right? So that's where I am today.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Did you have, when you were in school, did you kind of have any ambitions of going in the direction that you did? Like, it seems like you really climbed the ladder to be where you are today.
I think we all wanted to work at Blizzard, right? But then it turns out it might not be the best workplace in the world. The pay is not super great. You can barely get an apartment in the area and so on. But on the ambition level of things, I kind of didn't realize that for a while. Like I didn't realize how fast you could climb if you really wanted to. I just wanted to do 3D, and I was just super stoked that I was doing games. Like, hey, my dream. But then you figure out that you can move much further and much faster. One of my issues was that I actually started at Kilo as an intern. So no matter how far you get up the ladder, you're a little bit seen like an intern, like because it's the same people and so on. So I just had to move out of that space, and as soon as I did, everything went much faster.
Awesome. And then that was a really successful experience. It sounds like. What is it like working on a game that has billions of downloads? That's incredible.
Well, when you're working on Google products, it's probably a lot of the same. You have to be really careful what you do because it affects so many people, right? If it was another game, early stages, 10,000 users or something, it wouldn't matter as much if something is broken. But when it affects billions, then then it really matters, right? So that means a lot of testing, a lot more testing than I've done on anything else in my life. It makes sense, but you got to be careful. But it also means that the the frame for the game itself is a little bit locked. You're not like people, especially higher ups, are not as open to changing it fundamentally, not as open to adding big new features because they're scared of ruining what works, right? Even though it might have improved the game greatly. So yeah, that was
makes
interesting. Yeah.
And what and for people on the call that may have experience doing game design or working on creative projects, what kind of tools are you using in software?
It changes every year. Almost every project, right? But it's like Unreal Engine, Unity, Photoshop, Blender, 3ds Max, Illustrator, all these mainstream tools. That's where my experience lies. But really, the true skill here is being good at learning, because it changes all the time. Even one software can change the full UI layout and have new features that you have to learn all the time anyway. So but like doing 3D today is something very different from doing 3D when I started.
That makes a lot of sense. I actually did a little 3D in my past, but it was mostly Rhino, SolidWorks, and Keyshot. What is like the I guess the go-to tool today?
Blender.
Blender? Okay.
And it's free.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah.
So so if Blender's free, then how do they make money?
Donations. And for some reason it's been going for, I don't know, 10, 15 years now, and it's working.
That's amazing. So
yeah, it is.
It's cool to hear about like your Web2 experience in gaming. And of course, now you're in Web3 gaming. So what was kind of the aha moment to transition into Web3 for you?
So the aha moment was more of a I don't want to do this anymore moment. It was I was getting fed up with free-to-play models that was super predatory. I was getting fed up with ads. I hope there's not too many people from the cool ads department, but I was getting fed up with ads, and I wanted to do something different. I didn't like that you had to put in so much money up front to do a production, where Web3 allows you, there's some tools for getting funding early on, which is very, very helpful in starting these games and actually seeing what the market wants as well. So that was some of the points. I had been looking into Web3 for a long time, and I see it as the next step for gaming. So that's why I jumped.
Wow, that's awesome. And then was there like a moment of inspiration where was it like you saw a game, or you were just aware of these new like maybe play to earn models, or there's utility that drew you in? What was incentivized?
It actually dropped into my lap. I was looking into NFTs. I was trying out. I made a collection of, I think it was 5,000 NFTs. These donut dudes put them on OpenSea. Started talking to some of these people in the community, and somebody needed somebody with my profile. One of the issues in Web3 is that there's not the amount of talent you might think there would be. Like, there's not a lot of people with 10, 15 years of experience in games or anything like that. It's also the coding languages for tokens and so on. Like, they've only been around for like 3-4 years, so you don't find people with like forever experience, really. So that's how I got into that. We sorry, I'm just gonna go back one step here. So I did the donut dudes. I got a connection. There was a guy or a team that needed a director for an MMO. The team was Voltaire DAO, which was originally a guild for Axie Infinity. So they pivoted into doing an MMO and needed somebody like me. So I was in charge of the team there, leading some people from Riot and Blizzard and so on, which is like quite the step up the ladder from where I was coming. Remember the original dream being working at Blizzard, and then just having the same people around me without having to have the bad pay. That was nice. Anyways, as I said, they were a guild for Axie Infinity. Axie Infinity's SLP price dropped by 99%, I believe it is now, which means a lot of the money was just right out the window, right? That is what it is. So we ended up not having enough funding to finish this project, but we got some really cool things out of it. From there, I started looking around for what are the options actually in Web3, and I found this really cool guy, Enric, who was doing Playchain from Singapore. There was some. He already had some games, already got some funding. It seemed very promising. He was talking about doing like a guild and some of these things as well. That at the time, it just seemed like a really great fit, and it has been so far. He seems to be happy with me as well, so that's always something. So today
Yeah.
I'm leading 4 game teams, a gaming platform, and an API as a service for backend for the Web3 environment, and a dashboard that will then where you will then able to manage your assets like tokens and NFTs.
Wow, this is a great transition to talk about Playchain more in depth. Do you
Most
think
definitely.
should we bring up the slides? Would that be? I'll do
Yeah,
that now actually,
sounds
and
good.
we can chat through that. Thank you so much for putting these together.
Yeah,
I
no
guess
problem.
I'm gonna let you drive, and you can tell us about Playchain.
I was making a new website anyway, so I could just dump the graphics.
Perfect.
That's nice and easy. So yeah, sure. Actually, I think I'm going to start at basically inception or before Playchain,
Mhm.
which was a game called Continuum World, which is where Enric started. He got some funding and so on through token sales and NFTs, and a team on Mallorca for this. But there really is like no Steam greenlight or anything like this for starting a game, like no Kickstarter, no way of getting a Web3 game started and like showcasing your idea and so on. So it's all about like the marketing push that you can do yourself through Twitter,
Mhm.
Discord, and building communities. And this is not easy at all. Like, how do you reach the players and convince them to buy NFTs for a game idea with no material game? There's nothing they can try and so on. But it happens all the time, which is nice. Um, you can do a lot with images and showcasing ideas, and sometimes it's a success, and we
Mhm.
can start that way. It of course helps to have like some kind of track record, or showcase that we've done it before, or we've been in Web2 or something like that. So, how do you market a game with no platform and no publisher? How do you find buyers for NFTs and tokens when there's no game? There's just an idea. Like there's all these things. How do you build a community from scratch?
Mhm.
And that was like one of the reasons for starting the Playchain gaming platform and marketplace, because this would help with some of these issues, because we needed tools to accomplish some of these things. Like we needed something to be able to build a bigger community. You build a bigger community by having multiple communities and merging them. You do the marketing by having or you market your game by having players from one game see that there's another game. So if you start combining these and having it all in one place, you'll get a lot more cross marketing.
Mhm.
So
And let me know if you want me to switch to the next slide too, if that
yeah,
is
sure.
more.
Let's just wait a minute.
Okay.
But with like another reason for Playchain is the friction that currently is in Web3 gaming. It's immense. A new Web3 user would have to set up a Binance account, buy some tokens on Binance for like fiat, and create a MetaMask, set up the MetaMask for the required chain for the game, transfer Ethereum, Matic, or whatever the token required is to the MetaMask, then go and swap it on a DEX, and now you can start spending it in the game. And that's a lot of steps for somebody who doesn't know anything about Web3 and just wants to get into it, right? You
Mhm.
basically need a tutorial to be able to spend your money in the game, and that's not really a viable way to try and convert these billions of Web3 Web2 gamers into Web3 gamers.
Mhm.
So yeah, and other times as well, the friction lies in the upfront cost. Like you can have Axie Infinity, for example. I think it was like $1,200 at one point to even be able to get into the game and try it, and that's a very high price for trying a game.
Yeah.
But they also focused a little bit much on play to earn. So the fun of the game wasn't really there. Like it was more about grinding and trying to make money.
Yeah, and I think we
Which
talked about that before. And you mentioned that play to earn model is likely not going to be the one that will succeed. Can you touch on that a little bit more?
I don't think it will be due to it not being like super sustainable. These games are not necessarily fun. A lot of them are luck based or very grindy. So what happens is that these players that play to earn, they pull value out of the game economy, and there's not really anybody putting value back. So eventually,
Yeah.
like they'll just keep dragging the economy down, and then you get minus 99% value, right? So what you need is more of a play for fun player. I think you need a player base like that comes to the game because they like it. They'll buy skins, they'll buy loot boxes because they enjoy the game and they want to showcase themselves to friends, or they want to improve their characters because they're liking the game and they want to stay for longer. So you need to retain them for longer. You need to make sure you don't let them pull all the value out all the time, or at least they shouldn't want to. So I think the best play to earn game is probably going to be one that's also the most fun, due to people not actually wanting to cash out. They just want to continue playing and not lose all that value. So that's where I see this going.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Should I jump to the next slide?
Not yet.
Okay.
Just 1 second. So actually, jump. That's good. Let's go to the next one.
We're jumping.
Yeah, you're jumping. So we want to make all this much more pleasant with our gaming platform, PlayX. Our platform token will be called the X token. Usually X is a placeholder for some other name. In this case, it symbolizes that you can use it across all our games. So it's insert any game name in here token. So the X token can be bought for fiat, which basically removes like 5 steps from the thing I was explaining before. So now you have the game token, and then you can spend it in one marketplace, which encompasses all our games trading, which means that you pay once and then you can buy in any of the games. There's no extra swaps needed or anything like that. You can get into it basically like a Web 2 game, right? A lot of the issues with trying to convert Web 2 players into Web 3 players is the friction. It's too cumbersome to get into these games, really, and so yeah, that we're trying to remove some of that friction. And then there's another issue, which is that it's hard to, like I was explaining earlier, it's hard to market, it's hard to showcase your projects, your ideas, it's hard to get into the market with a new game idea. So we will include something like a mix between Steam Greenlight and Kickstarter for this platform. So you can showcase your game ideas, and the community can sort of choose what projects they like to fund and so on. So we will hopefully see that the better ideas are the ones getting funded, and then we'll get better projects for the platform and so on, and it'll maintain itself. So that's the plan.
Nice.
So PlayX in general will just be our gaming platform and marketplace. This is where the consumer, the player, will come in. If you go to the next slide, then we have our Levels product, which is a Web3 API as a service with a developer tools dashboard. This is where you manage your NFTs and tokens. You create them, you track all the transactions, you have like a visualization of all the data and users in there, basically. So this will be super easy to implement into your games, and as soon as it's implemented, you can just start creating NFTs. You can turn these NFTs into, maybe you create like 3 different NFTs, you put them into a loot box, and now you can put these loot boxes up for sale, and we'll have like a featuring on PlayX. So it's like it plays really closely together with the PlayX platform. But this is for the developers, and the other one is for the players.
Gotcha. I have a question about this. And so
Yes,
since
definitely.
you guys have your own token, does it mean that all of the assets like NFTs and skins, etc., would live primarily on chain, on the X token chain, or is this portable to other chains?
They actually don't live on a chain until you withdraw them. So it's like they do, but they are yours, but when you can withdraw them to any chain you want. So you just pull them out when when you want to. On the sorry, just 1 second here. Just making sure I'm not saying something wrong.
Okay, no problem, no problem.
Oh, yeah, we're getting into this. The process or the progress on this is good. We have the basic tool and the functionality going. We just need to polish it up for retail so that we can actually sell this product B2B. We're currently using it in-house together with our game productions to test and evolve it. It makes a lot more sense to like make the game, figure out what are the needs, and then add it into levels so they're working alongside each other, right?
That's awesome. So it sounds like kind of like one-stop shopping. If you're a game developer, you can come to your platform, build the game out, deploy it, create the commerce on the platform, and enable your users to be able to consume that in a full loop. I like that.
Yes, there's even like there's some other things here as well. For the X token can also be used in levels. You can purchase marketing featurings on the front page, sponsored tournaments, and all these kind of things. So you can add extra layers to your game or extra functionality, even like community stuff. Like you can add rewards and so on. So we can get it as easy as possible for the developer. They just go in, click some things, purchase some stuff, and then send it off, and then we'll take care of the rest.
I love that. That sounds great.
Let's head to the next slide. Because we also have our starting point, right? We had the Continuum World, which is made by a studio called Game Motion. This is our internal game studio. They're currently doing 2 productions. They're doing War Legends, which is a tank MOBA, and they're doing Continuum World, which is like a MMO with some focus on crafting, gathering, exploration, and stuff like this. Also, a focus on breeding, but that's a part of like the NFT world where you breed 2 NFTs to get another one, right? So yeah, that's what they're doing. There are about 40 people on Mallorca. Get to visit once in a while. This summer was too hot, man.
Yeah, gosh. Well, Mallorca sounds awesome to visit any other time of the year. So I didn't know
exactly.
Companies based there. That's cool.
Apparently, it could be too much in season.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. You can head to the next slide. This is our game War Legends. So the tank MOBA, we have it set up in a slightly different way than usual MOBAs like League of Legends and Dota. We're trying a 4 versus 4 playstyle. We're using currently, I think, like 15 tanks, 12 heroes, and 30 abilities for launch. So you don't have a set hero or anything like that. You do a combination of these. So you can do 1 tank, 1 hero, and 5 abilities, which you then customize pre-battle. So you can set it up for better defense, more healing, repairs, higher damage, better airstrikes, all these kind of things. So, and all these are NFTs. So that's what we're doing in like our pre-sales and so on, which means that you will own these. You can earn them in game as well, but you will own these and you can sell them again. But they are not required to play the game. One of the things we're doing to remove friction is making every single one of our games free to play, or basically free to play, but not the free to play model with the premium. It's just free to play. If you don't want to spend money, you don't ever have to do that. But if you want to get a little bit ahead, you can spend some money, right? So that's what we're doing with this. That the next thing coming actually today we had a successful multiplayer test for the game, which was really nice. 4 versus 4 in the same game, and getting ready for launch, which is on the 20th of October. So that's also very, very soon. If you go to the next page, I can show you a little bit about how the NFT sale is set up for people interested.
A quick question though, the resolution and graphics here, like as you mentioned before, a lot of the Axie Infinity games were like seemed like super low quality. I don't know if that was the aesthetic they were shooting for, but I love the quality that you guys are pursuing for this game. So I just wanted to call that out because it's impressive because I know how much work this takes. This is like a tremendous amount of work.
Actually, this team is quite amazing. It's led by a guy called Mickey who has 30 years of game development experience. I don't know anybody else with 30 years.
Wow.
But he's also at night. He's a teacher at the game developer college on Mallorca, the only one there. So he handpicks his team, and he has the best guys. Like I have not seen a team this solid before. We haven't ever switched anybody out. It's quite the dream. But that also means that they can do a lot with very few resources, and they're just pumping out content all the time.
That's
Uh,
amazing.
it's also like one of the first productions I've seen ahead of schedule. It's,
Wow.
yeah, I know, right? What a
That's
luxury. It's usually like delayed 2 years or something, right? But
yeah.
not this time. So that's super nice. We'll be balancing and tweaking the game over the next month or two before release, and then it'll come out. Which takes us to the next slide, which is we need to get some tanks out to people. So we're doing a NFT sale on the 20th. I just wanted to showcase like how this sort of works and why it's so awesome. It
Mhm.
it's so awesome because you can get funding for a game before you have a game. We could have done this much earlier, but we wanted to showcase that we had a game. So, but basically, you can do it with an idea, and like a website. You explain what you want to do and tell you about your team, and then you can get the community to fund you, right? Um, Before you even started production, which means you can make sure that there's interest in the game. You can make sure that there's actually a community and people who will play it, and that it makes sense to the players, which is something completely different from the free to play world that I'm coming from, where everything is basically paid up front, and then you try and find a publisher at the end, which doesn't always work out. So this is just really nice for game development itself to be able to fund productions before actually starting.
Yeah.
Anyways, in this case, we are selling the the loot boxes to increase our runtime, right? So we I think total this would be like $300,000 or something like that if everything sells,
Mhm.
which will then give us like another 6 months or something like that, and we can really improve upon the game. So it's a way of like letting the players spend some extra money, they get some cool things, and we get to give them a better experience. I think this is a lovely way to do it compared to some of the fairly predatory models seen in free to play. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I totally agree. That's really awesome. And then how do you guys choose your like pricing strategy for this?
Oh, that is like one of the hardest points.
Yeah.
So there's two elements to this. You can't do it in US dollars, right? Because
Yep.
you're selling it for crypto. So it's like here's 0.04 of something something. This is what it costs, and then people have to try and figure out how much is that, and does it make sense? And then 2 days later, it's like half price because the market is so volatile. But that is how it is. That's the frames we live within. Um, so choosing the price is based on a few other things as well. You have, if you're selling on Ethereum, for example, the gas price is currently, I think it's like $50 or something like that. So it doesn't
Mhm.
make sense to sell something for $10 if they're paying an extra 50 for shipping or gas, right?
Mhm.
Um, so the prices have to be fairly high, but that also means that you have to give them a lot of valuable content, and then sometimes it escalates a little bit, and then it turns into like some projects have $5,000 loot boxes, and that's not really a thing for the average player. We're,
Mhm.
we're trying to keep the price down as much as possible, to include as many as possible, expand upon the community as much as possible. It's not that's not an easy thing. And another thing in Web3 is that there is no model for success yet. There is no um, the right way to do it, because it evolves all the time. Something like Axie was seen as the next big thing. This is perfect, and then it exploded, right? And we had to find another model. But it is evolving all the time, and we will get there. I'm pretty sure.
I gotcha. I agree. I've worked on pricing strategies in the past, and it's so complicated because you can't predict future economics, and you need to have an X, I guess funding to get X accomplished. So I
Yeah,
feel your pain.
but it's fun. I like doing it.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, let's head to the next thing. Okay, there is no next thing. Here we go.
Well, cool. I'm going to turn my screen share off, and then I have a couple more questions before we jump into the Q&A. Thank you so much
Definitely.
for walking us through that process, because I find that like game development, I think when the first Web3 games started becoming released, there was all this enthusiasm on like, we're going to be able to accelerate the timeline. And it's like, you can't. It takes so much time. This is like an enormous achievement, especially it's of high quality. On the order of years, not really months. So I guess that being said, you working on a couple different titles now, like how are you guys planning for that?
For upping the quality?
Or I guess just like, how do you manage the game development process? And then of course, like, I feel like there are a couple moving parts. There are the economics of trying to raise money, engage with the community, and just stuff like that. And I'm probably unaware to how a lot of it works.
Well, we keep it in 3 separate groups. You have a team raising money, you have a team doing the marketing and community, and you have a team focusing 100% on the game. The people focusing on the game are usually Web2 developers coming into Web3, and they're treating it like a Web2 game because that's our vision, right? We are not going deep into the play to earn. We're trying to get it into more of like a fun direction, so people will stay, they'll spend money, and we can up the value, right? So that's how we divide that.
Gotcha. Okay. And I'm sure a lot of people would be curious to know, like, where does a Web3 game live? There's must be infrastructure and security and identity. Like,
Yes.
how does that all work?
Currently it lives on our own server, but a lot of the games, actually a very large percentage, I think it's like 70 or 80% of all Web3 games live in the browser. 100%. We would like to have a platform, an actual launcher, like Steam, Epic Launch, and so on. So that's coming. It won't be the first edition. The first edition will be a website. You click play, and you go to the game basically, or you get like a download or something like that. But a lot of Web3 is living in the browser, so it's basically from anywhere. But it's nice for cross-platform. It's nice for mobile use and so on. So everybody loads the same link, and you can play it on different machines.
Gotcha. And so then, where? And we talked about this during our last call, but maybe you can share how how did you guys stand up your infrastructure? Like, who do you use for those services?
I don't remember this conversation.
Oh.
But also, I would have to talk to my CTO about that. I know we have a lot of it on our own servers and a lot of it in the cloud, but I don't know exactly who's hosting these.
Gotcha. Okay. And I think you mentioned before that like that's working well for you. So what have some of the most difficult challenges been in the process?
It's actually hiring. Hiring in Web3 is really, really hard. There's a lot of bias against it. And I don't think everybody, like I think it was Gamescom. No, it was the one in San Francisco. I don't remember, but at least there was last year, 14,000 game developers, and 70% or something like that didn't want to move into Web3, which cuts out a lot of the talent pool, right? A lot of people have misconceptions that it's, using child labor or whatever it is. There's some crazy misconceptions out there, and a lot of people find it to be like it's all hackers, it's all about avoiding taxes, it's all these different things, and then there's no solid game proving them otherwise. So yeah, that's some of the issues we're having. So hiring, most definitely our number one issue.
Gotcha. And when people talk about like those fears, do you guys provide any sort of research or defense as to like why those things aren't true?
I don't think we ever get to that point. They were not going to send an application.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And is that at all a part of maybe some of like the outreach that your community building does, like trying to evangelize the benefits?
The thing is that there will never be in our there's nowhere on our socials that these people will be because they're not engaged in the Web3 community to start with. It's not an easy thing. I have been to my old studio, Funday Factory, to talk about these kind of things, and still, like, even afterwards, they're like, I don't believe it, and I was like, well, the media is saying, yeah, I know, but this is not how it works, man.
Yeah, we feel that too. I think a lot of us are trying to evangelize the benefits of Web3, and we're still kind of hitting a wall in a lot of cases.
Yeah,
Do
exactly.
you have like a vision for the future of Web3 gaming? Like, where do you think we're headed?
I think we're headed a little bit in the same direction as the metaverse, in the sense that you can live in it, that you can earn from these games. But we're also heading in a way where the player has a lot more power because they can own part of the game, right? I just saw a news article the other day that one wallet is owning more than 50% of all Axie Infinity's tokens, which is quite an issue. That might be a little bit too much ownership, right? And they don't know who it is, but yeah, that is an issue. But something where the players have a lot more power about the production and direction of the games, so they can play it for a long time, and the community will sort of choose where it goes through the power of them being owners of token and actually being the ones making this possible, right? This goes through a lot of like things like DAOs and so on, where you can do voting. You get voting power through your investment.
Yeah, and then for companies like Google or any large, tech companies, what do you think like their role should be in Web3 gaming?
You asked me this last time, and I was actually thinking a lot about it, because you were saying things like, would we like analytics and all these things? And we're building all this ourselves. It's really easy when the blockchain itself is permanent, right? You can always find the information. Some of the things that we need is for Web3 to actually be more legitimized. I don't know if there's something like a like one of those stickers that say approved by Google kind of thing. Like, I don't know if there's a way of getting to a point where you can be seen as a leader in the space, where an approval or a like a verified sticker on Twitter or something like that will if there's some way of showing that, because that will put a lot of trust into products in general. It's hard to get Web 2 players in, but if they're saying, oh, it's approved by Google, so it must be like a legitimate product kind of thing, I think that might be an option. And then there's also, well, Google should have its own token and so on. Like, there's a lot of steps to proving legitimacy, but I think that trying to get to that point first, and making it legit for the 99% of the population who is definitely against it, would be the first step.
Gotcha. That's really good to hear, because there are so many different ways big companies could enter this space, whether it be through I guess some of the more standard services like infrastructure and security, and maybe identity, or like communication, support tools. But I agree. Like, I think it makes a lot of sense for a big company that has hopefully established some reputable trust globally. What is the perception in the different like markets that you guys operate? Because I've heard that like Western gaming culture is very different from how widely accepted Eastern gaming culture is. And is that something that you guys deal with?
So I find currently that the Asian areas is the play with the most acceptance. They're a little more used to grinding, and the early versions of the Web3 gaming has been very grindy. There's places like the Philippines where play to earn might have taken a little bit, might have been a little bit too much. If you start having a whole country playing games instead of doing infrastructure or construction, or having like being in stores and so on, you have an issue. So I think there's most acceptance in Asia, most definitely. They're also not using really credit cards and stuff like that. Everything is already a number in a phone, so it makes a lot of sense to them. All the guilds, all the big ones are based in Asia, so that means that all the biggest player bases of Web3 is in Asia currently.
Gotcha.
for the players to be able to earn, there needs to be a pool of tokens. We own that pool of tokens, and with them purchasing or playing and selling using the marketplace, they're increasing the value of the tokens. So in the end, we'll hopefully have increased value of the tokens to a point where we can start selling it off and using it on more game production or whatever we want. So in the end of the day, we're providing them with a full game, and they're providing us hopefully with a value increase. A lot of the investments from outside are also coming in token allocation. So an investor will ask for maybe 10% of a token pool, and then they will hand us 500,000 or something like that. So money can also come that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then have you guys thought about exploring like any other monetization models?
We are looking into premium stores for a game. So in the marketplace, you'll have the regular auction house, but you'll also have a place where you can purchase directly, like NFTs or skins or something cool from the developers, which will then go directly to the developers. So it's like a way of having, instead of it being always between players, there's a way of purchasing directly in like a premium store for the game.
Gotcha.
I know you were talking about ads earlier. I don't think that will ever be part of it, sadly.
Well, that's probably good. I would be happy if ads weren't a part of that. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for your time. This is
Thank
great.
you.
I love this conversation. Especially, I think we'll do our best to reflect on the things we've learned, and let us know if you need anything. We want to be available as a resource.
Sounds great. I'd love to do this again in like 3-4 months and actually showcase platform levels and games and so on. That would be a lot of fun, and the whole world will have changed by then.
Sounds good. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks, Daniel. Everybody.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Bye bye.
Have a great day.
Thank you.